Now, by way of necessary preface, even though the Primetime Emmys Awards have not taken place, what we're talking about is the Creative Arts Emmy, specifically the one that was given to the Leaving Neverland mockumentary. But the thing to remember is the Creative Arts Emmys happens to be nothing more than the other side of the Primetime Emmys Awards. They claim that it's supposed to be for technical achievement. It's supposed to be for some sort of technical creativity, but the truth of the matter is this is just a form of saying Emmys and extending the Emmys from being just one show to basically being kind of an award season in and of itself. Instead of taking place over the course of one night, they've basically artificially inflated it to an entire week of the white media patting itself and its useful media operatives on the back. So just understand, even though we're not talking about the Primetime Emmys yet, that's okay. As far as the Television Arts and Sciences Committee, or whatever the hell they call themselves, are concerned, the Creative Arts Emmy are in fact Emmys, period. Now, that said, I need for my people to understand that the white media as a holistic organism serves not just one purpose, but a series of purposes. But we need to go ahead and focus on one purpose in particular. The white media was not created, nor is it funded, nor is it sustained, simply as some sort of vanity project on the behalf of white supremacy. The primary purpose that the white media serves is to promote a value system. And that value system is that white is supreme, and of course, you can't have supremacy in a vacuum, so you of a necessity require some sort of inherent inferior. Black people have been chosen as that inferior that white supremacy is always going to be magnifying itself against. If you have problems keeping the various European factions from being at one another's throats, well, you introduce the big bad black man, the threat of genetic annihilation. This is an enemy that all of the separate factions of Europe can agree upon needs to be attacked and needs to be suppressed and needs to be held in check. And if you're attacking black people, well, that means you don't have enough time to attack one another, or at least you don't have as much time. Any port in a storm. And of course, what is true for the group at the macro level is also true for the group at the individual level. Now, just today on my Twitter page, I posted about how the HBO Sky News mockumentary, the feculent work of fiction called Leaving Neverland, which has been debunked, discredited, disproven, and reviled 5 ways from Sunday, this thing doesn't even merit a Saturday Night Live skit, much less any sort of serious consideration, and yet that explains exactly why the folks over at the Emmys decided to give this pile of lies an Emmy for Best Documentary. Even though it's been completely and thoroughly shown that there was nothing to it, it had absolutely nothing to undergird it, just a bunch of people saying, well, I say Michael Jackson did this, and why is this happening? You need to understand that white supremacy is under attack right now. It's finding itself, no matter how brave a front it tries to put forward, no matter how much of a us worry facade that they try to promote, they are quaking in their boots because they're being challenged by black empowerment. They're finding themselves under attack on all fronts, major fronts, and while it's not enough to topple them, the point is they find themselves in a position that they have not been in a very, very, very long time. And that position is on the defensive. So in comes the white media, since you got a lot of white males who, at least as a hypothetical, as a theoretical, they could, if left unchecked, if the forces against them are left unchecked, you got a lot of white males in positions of authority who could find themselves actually being held to account. And supremacy means you're supreme. What it means is that the laws and the rules do not touch you. It was the Marquis de Sade who said that the most important thing under any governmental system is that the law not touch the powerful man. Now, the Marquis de Sade was a white man in France at a time when there were no black people to be able to protect white power from the righteous rage of the white rank and file, and they all saw how badly that could go. White supremacy, and in this case we're using white supremacy not even in the sense of color per se, But the idea of white, which means the person of European descent who happens to have the most power, as Dick Gregory said, unless you make at least $20 million a year, you're not white, you're just a Caucasian. You're just a white wannabe. But as far as white being a classification of power goes, if black people didn't exist, then white supremacy would have had to invent them. This is what you saw in Ireland when the British invaded. Black people didn't exist, at least not in the Irish Isles, so white supremacy had to invent an ethnic subclass. You can go ahead and read Joseph Allen's classic work, The Invention of the White Race, if you want the background on that. The man went into withering detail about that particular issue, using Ireland as a case study of how white supremacy established itself in everything but color. Now, what's this got to do with the white media? You got Harvey Weinstein. You got Les Moonves, or Molester Moonves, as I like to call him. You have a number of white men who are running these media companies. Everyone from Don Hewitt to Roger Ailes to the former head of NPR. Doesn't matter if it's on the political left or the political right. When it comes to white privilege being able to abuse with impunity, that kind of corruption doesn't know a political classification. In fact, a lot of these guys on the left and the right, you find that they're best buds with each other after hours. So when one of them finds their butt in a crack, whether it's Molester Moonves, or whether it's Roger Ailes, whether it's Matt Lauer or Bill O'Reilly, what happens is they circle the wagons for one another. All of a sudden, their little pretend fake, oh, we're so in contention with one another. All that falls away as soon as one of them's under threat, because they're all engaging in the exact same corruption. They're all engaging in the exact same immorality. And when it comes time for them to try to ward off criticism and to try to shield themselves from the righteous punishment that they deserve, well, they can always be counted on to reach for the golden blackjack that never misses. And that is, just point the finger at a black man. Doesn't matter. It can be Kevin Hart. It can be Anthony Anderson. It can be whomever, preferably some black man who's most prominent. It can be a Bill Cosby. Hell, it can be a black man who's dead. Oh, we'll go ahead. It's time to trash Michael Jackson again. Every time the white supremacy, some white male finds himself getting exposed in the media, all of a sudden his media buddies, his white media pals who run these companies, all of a sudden they decide, well, we're going to find some lie, preferably about Bill Cosby or Michael Jackson, or even if it's true, we can find it about some black man. It's okay if you're out there raping, robbing, pillaging, and plundering, so long as you're white. You see, the difference between R. Kelly and Roger Ailes is Roger Ailes was never held to account. There was never any danger that Roger Ailes was actually going to be punished. Roger Ailes never had to wear the prison orange like R. Kelly did. Roger Ailes was never in handcuffs. Roger Ailes was never dragged into a courtroom, and they were not going to drag him into one. Harvey Weinstein, just like Kevin Spacey before him, every time that he's about to be in the news again, here comes some convenient accusations against usually Michael Jackson. And of course the Emmys were going to give an award to this fraud. That's what happens when you're in war. You can go ahead and sacrifice things like your credibility. The white media never had credibility to begin with. This is the purpose that these award ceremonies serve, whether it's the Oscars, whether it's the Emmys, or what have you. The point of these award ceremonies in the white media is to enshrine and to attempt to try to give some sense of undeniable, unquestionable prestige. This is meant to give an undeniable certification of validity and merit to the various lies that the white media creates, whether it's narrative fictional lies or whether, as in the case of Leaving Neverland, alleged documentaries, which of course completely falls in its face. There was nothing in Leaving Neverland that was substantiated. Just some guys saying, we're saying this, we're saying that. So why on earth would you give something like this that has absolutely nothing to back it up, nothing to prop it up, has been attacked, debunked, and disproven 5 ways from Sunday? Why would you give it an award? Well, you got to understand something about the individuals who are behind These awards groups, they happen to be by and large the very individuals who run the white media. All you have to do is go online and take a look at who it is who is behind the Emmys, and of course is nothing but a whole bunch of white folk. Yeah, you happen to have a majority who are seemingly white females, though in this day and age, I think we can justifiably say that there's a question mark over some of their heads. Let's just be honest. But of course, you got the white males who happen to be in the highest positions. Even when they're a minority, they still are at the very highest levels. So you got a group that's majority female, question mark, and yet for some strange reason, it happens to be the white guys who at the highest levels of it. Certainly a white guy who's running things. And it's from this position that they decide that they're going to do their part to help protect other white supremacists who happen to have their butts in a crack, or at least who happen to have gotten themselves into a bit of a jam. They use their position to say, we're going to make sure you don't forget. It doesn't matter if the lies about Michael Jackson have been disproven. The point is we're going to give it an award. We got to keep up the steady drum beat. Got to keep up the constant drum beat. It doesn't matter if we're delegitimizing ourselves. It doesn't matter. We're going to go down on this one because we don't have a choice. We can't go anywhere else. And that's what they understand, that they're hoping you don't understand. You're supposed to make sure that anytime the white supremacists tell some lies, they are immediately carpet bombed with the truth. And the first truth that needs to be spoken is, we see you. You're not getting away with anything. We may not be able to stop you from lying, but we can certainly stop you from being able to stick out your chest and say, see, nobody's contesting this. Nobody's actually disagreeing with us. No, you are facing maximum opposition, because we understand that this is not about Michael Jackson at all. What this happens to be about is you got the white media you got one corner of the white media attempting to protect another corner of the white media. You have one corner of the propaganda arm of white supremacy, one hand attempting to try to shield and cover the other. There is absolutely nothing about leaving Neverland that was true, other than you had a couple of punks who Michael Jackson should have had better taste than to let anywhere near him. That's the only thing that was true. Michael Jackson was the one who was and has been assaulted by these two little creeps every day ever since. That's the only thing true here. And of course, nobody is going to be leading the charge to actually point out, why is HBO and Sky News so hot and bothered about Michael Jackson, a dead man, and they have absolutely no interest whatsoever in Kevin Spacey, no interest whatsoever in Harvey Weinstein, no interest whatsoever in Bill O'Reilly. You got just an entire plethora of white males who have been exposed, and there is no question about them. With Michael Jackson, there has never, ever actually been anyone who's proven anything other than they wanted money out of him. The accusations and allegations were always coming from the same handful of clowns and liars and frauds who figured that they could shake him down. He made the mistake of actually deciding to pay some hush money one time just to see if he could make the bad press go away, and that proved to be the dumbest thing he could have done, because it let everybody know, well, we actually can shake him down. You know, he's more concerned about headlines than he is with the fact that nobody actually believes it. Sheltering yourself from the public, especially from black folks who are in a position to help speak up for you, that can actually turn out to be your worst mistake. Putting your faith in your white publicists and your white advisors who are telling you that you need to be afraid of what the white media says, as opposed to reaching out to black folks who can actually act as a counter lever to the white media's lies, that can be a mistake. See, you don't get to stand out there by yourself. You die a very lonely death when you try. But you see, there was never any fear that any of these black folks in Hollywood or in media were actually going to disagree with the white media narrative against Michael, because white supremacy elevated these Negroes in the first place. Oprah Winfrey damn sure wasn't going to disagree with it. She was an invention of King's World Media, the most powerful black woman who had the most powerful woman in the world as far as media goes. Certainly the most powerful non-head of state, and yet for some damn reason, this black woman wasn't about to say a word against her white paymasters, because she understood that they invented her, and that when the time comes, they can also get rid of her with a flick of their wrists. But it also helps that Oprah Winfrey has always had an overwhelming hatred for at least half the black population. She blatantly hates black men, which means she hates half the black population. And she ain't got much use for the other half of the black population because most black women are not lesbians. So Oprah Winfrey ain't got much use for them either. As far as she's concerned, the black population is split into two groups. You have half the black population who are largely useful idiots in Oprah Winfrey's estimation. Black women can be used and played for fools, and if they refuse to be played for fools, they are to be ignored. And then you have black men who are to be attacked relentlessly. That's the black population, according to Oprah Winfrey. There have been a few black people, at least some black comedians, who kinda, sorta said something that could be obliquely taken as sticking up for Michael Jackson, though they made sure to never make much of an issue of it. But what was never going to happen was there was never going to be a full-throated defense of Michael Jackson by any of these black folks, because in black people who are celebrities, they understand exactly how it is that white power chose them. They understand why white supremacy chose them. White supremacy chose them precisely because they would be useful tools. And they know the game that they're playing. At least, well, they know the game that they're playing, but each one of them has convinced themselves that they're going to be an exception to the rule. Because the rule is, when you become a tool of white supremacy always breaks its tool in the end. So they understand that their job is, when you got white supremacy attacking some black person, well, you make sure that you don't get out of line by sticking up for them. And you also try to tell yourself, well, that black person, they must have done something. Because you see, I'm a smart Negro. I've got it figured out. That's what black celebrities always try to convince themselves of, that they alone have got it figured out. That other black person over there, well, they must have ticked off the wrong person, or they must have done something out of turn. Or, they just weren't careful enough. Well, they must have been slipping up. They must have made some sort of slip up or mistake somewhere. Not like me, though. So I don't want anyone thinking that these award shows, when they do stuff like this, sure, as far as sales goes, these guys can do nothing more than to give a golden statuette to some white performer or to some Negro who they're trying to give a pat on the head for having made themselves useful to white supremacy's aims. They can do that. But what the main thing they're doing is they're trying to use it as a platform to communicate to the society that this pack of lies, whether it's The Blind Side or Leaving Neverland, this pack of lies, we're holding this up and we're going to tell everybody that this is the truth, because that's what the awards ceremonies are actually about. Now, of course, they're not going to say what the Oscars or the Emmys or the Tonys or anything else are. They try to put forward the lie, of course, that, oh, we have taken a look at all of the movies that are worth looking at. And of all the movies that actually deserve any sort of meritorious consideration, we have found the few that actually deserve examination, that actually merit serious scrutiny, and we are going to award this one, or we're going to at least single out a number of them and say, this is what constitutes true artistic endeavor. This is what is actually worthy. This is true art. Because that's the actual message that they're giving. The message that they're attempting to deliver is, these works are truth. They are true, at least if they are not facts, which is what they're trying to say Neverland is. They're trying to say the Leaving Neverland mockumentary, well, this is factual. They're trying to hold it up and say, if we praise this in the minds of the public, then people are going to think, well, there must be something true about it. That's the value of having a media that can hold something up and say, this is important. In the eyes of the culture, in the eyes of the society, we are going to elevate and magnify this mockumentary, this pack of lies from HBO and Sky News. We're going to hold this up and we're going to tell people, we're going to shower it with praise and awards. And when people see something being showered with praise and awards, it automatically gets the message across to them that, well, there must be something basically true about it. It's being praised and held up. This thing is being esteemed and elevated. Well, that means it's important. And if it's important, that means it must be true. And there will be no pushback, not by black celebrities. Black celebrities are nothing more than boot-licking clowns for white supremacy. If anything, they know what their job is. Hey, Michael Jackson's getting thrown under the bus, and you know that black folks as a group, this is a proxy for black people. And it's definitely, the message, of course, is as black people, your job is to shield white supremacists from being punished. So when Harvey Weinstein is about to be in the news again, your job is to get the heat off of Massa. That's your job. And the black celebrities understand that. So none of them are going to, they know that their job is not to stick up for black people, not even other black celebrities. Their job is to keep their heads down and hope that it's not going to be them this week. Oh, they're going in on Bill Cosby. Well, keep your head down and hope it ain't going to be you. Oh, they're trashing Kevin Hart. Keep your head down and hope it ain't going to be you. Man, Michael Jackson's dead and they still are out here heaping nothing but lies on the man. Even in death, they're still attacking his memory. Well, keep your head down and hope it ain't going to be you. So at least as far as the environs of Tinseltown and the white media goes, the folks at the Emmy, the folks at the Oscars, the people over at ABC, the Aryan Broadcasting Company, NBC, nothing but Caucasians, and CBS, the Caucasian Bull station. These guys, whether it's the Caucasian Nazi Network or MSNBC, they know that they can tell their lies with impunity because the black folks of any note who white supremacy has given prominence to, they know exactly what side their bread's buttered on. They're not disagreeing with anything. They're going to be keeping their heads down and keeping their mouths shut. But you better understand, that's the purpose that award ceremonies serve. You think that Hattie McDaniel getting an award for playing a slave, the first black person getting an award for something that demeaning and degrading, you think that's some sort of accident? And then next thing you know, some 60 some odd years later, you had George Clooney, misguided clown that he is. He was talking about how far the Oscars had come because, well, the first award for a black person was given to Hattie McDaniel. And oh, the Hollywood is so progressive and we've been ahead of the curve as far as social progressivism goes. And next thing you know, a couple of years later, the Oscar is given to Viola Davis for playing a maid. Oh, you got Denzel Washington. He gets an Oscar for playing a slave. Then he gets another Oscar for playing a crooked cop. Michael Clark Duncan gets an Oscar nomination for playing basically a post-slavery sharecropper who, of course, comfortingly dies at the end of the Green Mile. That's what the value system that's meant to be enforced and reinforced. That's the purpose that award ceremonies serve in the white media. Their job is to be an undeniable certification of what is true as far as what the media puts out. What is to be held up as being important? What is to be held up as being a work of true merit? Something that the society needs to know about. Something that needs to be ingrained and engraved in the social consciousness. And it's not just the Emmys that uses its platform as a means of attacking black people. Why, earlier this year, you had Nicki Minaj, who apparently lost her would-be Grammy to Cardi B. And as a result, you had no less than BET, who took to Twitter to say that Nicki Minaj was being dragged by her lace front. This is what BET says, supposed to be black entertainment television, though buffoon entertainment television is what they've been for the longest time. BET has never actually been black run in any substantive sense. They've always depended on white money men for their wherewithal, and as we all know, he who pays the piper calls the tune. But BET decided that they were going to drag Nicki Minaj, and they weren't doing it because they liked Cardi B so much. They were doing it because this is the job that BET has always served for the white media. They have always been the black bootlicks whose job it is to say the dirt that white supremacy wants them to say. Because, well, white media is going to go, well, it'd be a little bit on the nose if we tried to say it. So here we got these Negroes over here who we got on the payroll, and they're going to say it for us. Here's what we want you to say, guys. Go ahead and take some shots at Nicki Minaj. And of course, if anybody has a problem with it, they'll say that it's BET who was in the wrong, and they'll never question the white folks who actually run it. That's the game that they played, and it seemed to go their way for a minute, but Nicki Minaj for about a hot minute. For a hot minute, Nicki Minaj got off code a little bit, and her response was, I PO'd. I'll let you fill in the blank on that one. The same man Ariana Grande just called out for lying. Grammy producer Ken Ehrlich is who she's talking about. I was bullied into staying quiet for 7 years out of fear, but I'll tell my fans the real on the next episode of #Queen Radio. They deserve the truth. Now, one of the major criticisms and points that was brought up was that you had Nicki Minaj, a black woman, though certainly not a woman whose roots go back to the killing fields of the American South. She ain't foundational black, but she's a black woman nonetheless. She was passed over for an award deliberately snubbed by the Grammys in favor of Cardi B, who's a Latina who has crapped on black people and black women in specific every chance she gets. Cardi B engages in the most grimy, low-down, reprehensible attacks, just the most racist crap you can think of. This woman, she considers herself to be an honorary member of white supremacy. And she uses the exact same guttural language about black people and black women in specific that you find coming from so-called white Latinos, comparing black women to insects and such. This is what Cardi B does when talking about black women. And don't think that was lost on the good white supremacists who run the Grammys. Hell, that was her ticket to ride. When they saw that from her, they're like, oh, this is exactly who we want to promote. And this was no accident. It was no coincidence. I did a video essay talking about Jennifer Lopez's so-called Motown tribute, which took place at the exact same Grammy Awards. So what you have here is not merely somebody who's bringing Nicki Minaj in for some abuse because she didn't follow instructions. What you have is the Grammys who are using their platform, their white media generated platform, and the platform given to them by white supremacy as a way to say, well, when it comes to music, it's not really black people who are important. Certainly not all these former slaves. What's important here is Jennifer Lopez. And what's important here is Cardi B. And what's important here is Ariana Grande. Yeah, okay, these women, they're all imitating Brandy and imitating Whitney Houston, and they're doing their craptacular covers of Motown songs. I swear, Jennifer Lopez, she sounded so bad, if you flushed a toilet, it would have been more melodious than that crap that she was spewing. But this is what the white media does. Even if they don't have the ability to bestow legitimacy on the individuals who they try to elevate, at the very least, they feel like, well, we can at least hold this up and let you know what we really think of you niggers. Okay, we can't stop you. We could probably slow you down a little bit, but at the very least, on our way out the door, on white supremacy's way out the door, as you Negroes usher us from the stage, we can at least be letting you know what we really think of you. That's what goes through the otherwise empty heads of Ken Ehrlich and his ilk whenever they pull stunts like this. This is what goes through the heads of the clowns over at the Emmys whenever they put Leaving Neverland and give that some sort of award. That's what's going through their heads. They know exactly how this story is going to end. White supremacy is not going to be standing forever. The lies that it tells will eventually crumble to dust and be forgotten forevermore. They're going to not even be a memory when it's all over. But the point is, they got right now, today, they have this one moment to tell black people what they really think. And so this is what they're attempting to do. But I want you to understand, these award ceremonies are not merely just vanity projects for the white media. They occupy a very important place. There's an impact that it has on the society. It's a form of societal programming. And that's not to be taken lightly at all. So it doesn't matter if it's the Oscars, doesn't matter if it's the Emmys, doesn't matter if it's the Grammys. You see the exact same anti-black program at work across the board. This happens to be equal parts hatred and fear, abject terror on the part of white supremacy at work. Because they know the general trend, and they've been looking and realizing that whenever black folks are not kept shackled, whenever black folks are not kept directly under the iron heel, if black folks are able to move, even wiggle a pinky toe, then white supremacy is immediately destabilized. They have yet to figure out what the answer is for all of these former slaves and the undeniable black genius that we represent. They have yet to figure out what an answer is. Well, maybe if we get some white folks out here doing their imitation, it didn't work. Well, okay, somebody with a little bit of melanin. We'll find some Hispanics and put them out. Okay, that didn't work. Well, what we'll do is we'll get Smokey Robinson to hopefully give the nod to Jennifer Lopez, and that didn't work. Well, if we just heap some awards, what we'll do is we'll destroy the image of all of these black people. We'll destroy Bill Cosby's image, and we'll destroy Michael Jackson. It's just going to be a relentless war. It's not going to stop, and we're going to just keep it up day after day. And hopefully, if we can just destroy as many of these black icons as possible, if we can scandalize them and denigrate their image, and if we can throw enough mud on them, if we can bury them under a mountain of lies and vituperative falsehoods about them, if we can just do that long enough, hopefully that's going to destroy their image, and people will then be willing to accept whatever white-generated phonies and frauds we trot out next. That's what they're trying right now. And what they're seeing is it isn't working. Because Ariana Grande, racist piece of trash that she is, that feculent cockroach, she doesn't represent the source. And neither does Cardi B. She doesn't represent the source either. And neither does Jennifer Lopez. And neither does Sam Smith or Adele or any of the rest of these fakers, frauds, and phonies. They don't represent the source. Foundational blacks, we represent the source. We represent the core. You can imitate all you want, but you can't duplicate this, because you cannot duplicate a singular genius. You can't decide that if I just try to sound like Michael Jackson, that'll do. Hey, Justin Timberlake, how's that worked out for him? Okay, if we just trot out some white guys, preferably some former hate criminals like Mark Wahlberg and his family, maybe we can go ahead and get them to be the answer to New Edition, huh? Forget about New Edition, we got new kids on the block, new white kids on the block. And a damn one of them produced anything as a solo act. Donnie Wahlberg had to retreat to Hollywood. That lets you know how much musical talent he had. He hasn't even tried to put out an album since. Yeah, he knew when he was licked. This is the reason why you need a black media. This is the reason why you can't decide that you're not going to be supporting or sticking up for or otherwise putting your backs behind the black media. Because you see, if there isn't a black media, if you don't have the new voices of black media out here actually speaking for you, pushing back against the white media's lies, a concerted effort against the white media lies, if you don't have that, then what you're going to get is a vacuum. You're going to get a void. And the white media will fill that void with a mountain of lies. They will take something of fraudumentary, which, by the way, ought to have HBO and Sky News dragged into court. But of course, they were very careful about this. They understood that once Michael Jackson's dead, well, you can't sue for libel or slander or defamation of character once you're dead. Even your family and survivors can't. So that being the case, they did this deliberately. This was a matter of, we're going to wait till after the guy's dead. And the same thing's going to happen with Bill Cosby. After Bill Cosby dies, you better believe that it's just going to be, forget about trying to take some clearly fraudulent accusations. They're just going to start making stuff up. They're just going to start flat out making stuff up. This is how low down white supremacy is and has always been. Now, whether or not they get away with it depends on whether or not there happens to be a counter programming effort out there. If there happens to be a voice that is concerted enough and strong enough and loud enough to be heard. Whether or not there is a black media, because I've just shown you what BET is going to do whenever black people come under attack. Whenever these award ceremonies decide that they're going to attack black people, BET is going to be cheering them on. They're going to be cheering on white supremacy. This couldn't be more blatant. And what's going to happen from your black celebrity class? Well, they're going to be keeping their heads down and their mouths shut. See all of these bought and paid for, an entire constellation of black bootlicks. That's what white supremacy did. Because of the uncompensated labor that we and our ancestors produced for this country, white supremacy has mountains of cash that they can use just a small portion of it to create a small army of black bootlicks. Not just one or two, but a small army of them. Oh, you think that Oprah Winfrey's the end of it? No, she ain't. She's just the tip of a very large, very smelly iceberg of black bootlicks who are willing to sell the soap for white supremacy and do white supremacy's bidding and do their dirt and cheer them on for their lies. Oprah Winfrey didn't even attempt to say, wait a minute, I knew Michael Jackson better than these two fraudsters did, and I simply cannot believe any of this because I actually knew Michael Jackson for more than a passing moment. And the Michael Jackson I knew, she couldn't even say, well, you know, you guys didn't actually bring any proof. Your empty accusations don't constitute proof. I actually knew Michael Jackson. I spent time around. She didn't even bother to do that. It was immediately, yep, I know what white supremacy wants for me. Family, you need to understand this is not a game. When people like Jason Black put out their documentaries like 7 a.m. and Race War, it matters that you get behind it. When Tariq puts out Hidden Colors in 1804, it matters that you get behind it. It matters that you elevate the works that come from the black media. It matters that you hold it up and that you repeat it, because there have been a number of white supremacists who I've been checking up on in the last few weeks. And they've been mentioning names like Jason Black and Tariq and a few others, but mostly Jason and Tariq. They've been mentioning those names. Because what's been the effect that the black media has, the effect of media in general, when it comes to mind share, when it comes to societal influence, the effect is cumulative. It's rarely instantaneous. Sure, if you got the white media that's able to put tons of cash and to make a media event out of one of their lies, sure, they can have an immediate effect. But when it comes to shaping the society, well, memories happen to be very short. That is, unless you got a white media that's there to hammer the lie every day and to make it where you're hearing about it day after day after day. If they do that long enough, then their lies can at least take hold. And if they're not seen as the truth, at the very least, they're seen as being basically valid, that there must be something basically valid about the lies. And the lies will take root, and the lies will go uncontested, and the lies will, by default, be taken as truth unless you've got somebody, in fact, a number of people. You're not just going to have one person who's going to push back against the white media lies, no matter how well funded. You're going to need a constellation of black truth tellers of your own, people who are on your side. People who are there to shoot down the lies and push back against the lies and make sure that when white supremacy spews their falsehoods, they're going to be pushed back against by some black truth, and not just a little bit of it, but a daily drumbeat. You need a daily drumbeat of your own. But that daily drumbeat is not going to be supplied for you by any of these black folks who white supremacy has elevated. They're trying to find a comfortable place under white supremacy. There have been some black folks whose names shall go unmentioned, who have found their butts in a crack recently. They've gotten a little bit of trouble from white supremacy. They found themselves in a little bit of a legal imbroglio, and they haven't been able to extract themselves from it. And the problem happens to be, if you got some Negroes who are out there waving the rainbow flag, but not waving the flag for foundational blacks, they decide that they're going to get their hands on a website And that website is going to be pushing not a black agenda, it's going to be pushing an immigrant agenda, but mostly an LGBT agenda. That's what they're going to be pushing. Well, in that case, then that's who you need to be looking to support you now that you're finding yourself in a protracted struggle against white supremacy. You need to be reaching to those people who apparently you thought were going to be so influential and going to be so important. That's who you need to be reaching out to. But who you don't reach out to are the new voices of black media. You certainly don't reach out to Professor Black Truth. You see, there's a reason why you see me supporting certain people and why there are other people whose names you never see me mention at all. There are certain people who you have seen me go to the mat for. There are certain people whose names you'll hear in my mouth, and there are other people who I do not mention for any reason whatsoever. So for those clowns out there who keep trying to figure out, is there some way that I can lure Professor Black Truth into Twitter beefing with me? Well, no, because it's far easier for me to block you than it is for me to even waste one moment on you. Or if you're thinking to yourselves that you're going to be having the new voices of black media at war with each other, you can find the ones who are not built for this. The ones who are part of the problem, they'll be the ones who get involved in that kind of guttural behavior because that's the level of their mentality. But you won't see Professor Black Truth falling for any of that. And any of the new voices of black media who are actually worthy of the name, they're not going to be engaged in that either. I posted some weeks ago on my Twitter page that there was limited value to taking down one of white supremacy's puppets. Didn't say that there was no value. I said that going after the puppets of white supremacy has limited value. Sure, you want to point out the puppets, because the point of a puppet is to distract people from the puppet master. The puppet sits here and amuses people, or does some stupid little dance, and people are looking at the puppet and they're not seeing the strings connected to the puppet master. They're paying attention to the puppet's little minor movements. Oh, how amusing. So while it's important that we point out that this is just a puppet here, and while there is value to cutting the puppet strings so that people can understand that this puppet that distracted you, look at how helpless it is. We cut the puppet strings like we did with Roly Poly, like we did with the Breakfast Schlubs. A lot of you have seen what the Breakfast Schlubs have been doing. They've been exposed. Kamala Harris, they tried to help to burnish her image, and they've been proven powerless. Oh, white supremacy can give you a radio show, and they can give you a broadcast antenna that can reach a lot of people, but there's a difference between reach and influence. Oh, you can reach millions of people. But the question is, how many of them do what you want? That's the difference between reach and influence. You see, the new voices of black media, the black media may not have the most reach. Certainly not in comparison to the white media, though we are building day by day. We may not have the most reach. But in comparative terms, we definitely have competitive influence. When we send out the call, things happen. And white power has noticed this. Right now, we've been stinging white supremacy. White supremacy is like, okay, we've been taking a couple little stings from these guys. We may not be able to smash these little insects, but the point is they can't take us down. But they're like, whoa, some of these stings are really irritating us. And damn, these stings they hurt and ain't going away. And man, they've been stinging us a few more times. Anybody got some deep woods off? Anybody got a shirt we could put on? Because some of these insects, these black media voices, they may not necessarily be killing us, but damn, these stings, we're feeling it now. We're feeling it. And they are realizing that they don't have any fly swatters that are going to be effective. Nah, there ain't no can of Raid. You're not going to come up with an antidote to these stings. And you understand that the stings are getting sharper and harder. Because the insects are getting stronger. That's what they're realizing now. Oh, you may have a situation where you feel like, are these little insects, these black ants, are they actually going to take us down? Well, if enough ants jump on you, yeah, that's exactly what they can do. And even if they can't eat you, they'll have you on the run. White supremacy knows exactly what an unchecked black voice, an actual black voice, not one that they propped up and created, but an actual black voice speaking on your behalf, they understand exactly where it can go. So all of this thrashing about that you see the white media doing, this is them trying to figure out, what are we going to do since we can't stop these black voices? Well, we're going to use our voice to scream as loudly as possible. Leaving Neverland, we're giving it awards, and expect the Oscars to be next. Well, the Golden Globes will probably be next, but expect the Oscars to be next, because this is coming from the highest levels of the white media. Who do you think HBO represents? AT&T. AT&T owns Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers owns HBO. So you have one of the primary communications cartels, AT&T, that now is being run by one of white supremacy's primary propaganda outlets, Warner Brothers, Time Warner. And they're the ones who got HBO. So all you folks out there who just can't live without your HBO, just so you understand, when you pay your subscriptions to HBO or when you pay your monthly subscription to AT&T, this is what they use your money for. They take the money that you give them, and you are subsidizing your own oppression. You are subsidizing these attacks against you. So for those of you who think that it's some sort of victimless crime or that it doesn't matter, the money that you are giving to HBO, just out of curiosity, do you think that you would even give, say, 10% of that to the new voices of black media? And for the record, HBO now costs $15 a month. So 10% of that would be $1.50. Now, I'm not even going to do the usual, oh, that's less than a cup of coffee. You spend more than that every day on Starbucks. That's not where I'm going with this. Where I'm going with it is, you got to be serious about this, because white supremacy, they have no problem deciding that when their interests are at stake, when there's something they want to see, they start trying to figure out, who the hell are we going to put some money into the pockets of so we can get this out there? Jason Black puts out Race War. Next thing you know, got the freaking NYPD laying siege to the theater. Now, nobody said we need police presence here. Nobody said send in New York's worst. But they decided, well, we want to make sure that the Negroes know we're watching you. This was not sanctioned, god dang it. What Negroes did this? And similar things have happened with other efforts by the new voices of black media to make sure that we have our work being put into venues where black people are going to see it. You better believe that this habit now, that you got these black folks who are actually putting movies in theaters, and they're not waiting for Warner Brothers to come along and green light anything, because they know that's not going to happen, and nor do they want that. They're doing it on their own terms, giving the pure, unvarnished truth to black folks. And what it also does, it encourages a lot of fakers, frauds, and phonies, but it also encourages a lot of other fellow travelers and well-wishers. They see what it is that Tariq and Jason do. They see brothers doing it big. They see brothers who are at the local level. I mean, where you live, you're able to be within a couple of hours of some real black media. You're actually able to be in a room with a bunch of other like-minded black folks. What you thought was only online, it is now coming out into the real world, and that's how white power sees it. See, it's one thing if they can just say, well, we're going to kill your YouTube channel, buddy. That'll be the end of you. Nah, you see, when people log off of YouTube, the new voices of black media don't go away. And so white media is trying to carpet bomb the public consciousness with this garbage. Sure, it's lies. Sure, it's been completely disproven. And white media is going, if we don't push this, we might as well go ahead and make reservations at the penitentiary along with Harvey Weinstein. We got to protect Harvey Weinstein because he's doing the same crap that we do. And if Harvey Weinstein can get away with it, if we can be successful at distracting people, if we can just use black men in specific as the distraction from the crimes that white sexual predators actually do, then, well, we've come up with a model for how to deal with these accusations. Just drag in some nigger for some abuse. We're going to go ahead and point the dirty end of the stick at Michael Jackson, and it doesn't matter if it's true or not, just going to make the lies and make them big. And then now nobody's talking about Harvey Weinstein so much, or at least we've given ourselves cover to stop talking about him. And don't worry, Rose McGowan, she won't be saying nothing about the so-called pig monster, as she called him. All of a sudden, it's going to be about Michael Jackson. And she'll be talking about R. Kelly, because she's playing the game too. She's just trying to figure out how to get her career, such as it was, back on track. No, family, you're not getting out of this one if you're trying to figure out how do you push back against this mountain of lies. If you're disgusted by the fact that the white media is doing this, then you're going to require a substantive offensive, a media offensive of your own. Now, those guys out there who are the foot soldiers for you, they exist. But you got to get serious about supporting them. You got to get serious about it. You can't just be righteously indignant whenever the Emmys or the Grammys or the Golden Globes or the Oscars decide to use their white media platform in order to attack black people either directly or by proxy. That can't be the only time you get indignant. Your indignation has to take the form of resources. Resources being principally financial resources, because white supremacy's power is the strength of its economy. And that's what your dollars represent. They represent resources. But also in terms of moral support. Those happen to be the twin fulcrums upon which the victory or defeat of black empowerment are going to hinge upon. And make no mistake, no matter how much you may hear me say the white supremacy's trend happens to be in the wrong direction, they've faced this before and they've given themselves a new lease on life at our expense. That's what happened in 1492. By invading Africa and the Americas, white supremacy was able to give itself a new lease on life for a little while longer. Now they're trying to figure out what's the next scam going to be, how they keep themselves alive for the next 500 years. So please do not think that the fall of white supremacy is some sort of fait accompli and that all you got to do is sit back. And don't worry, the black folks who actually believe in getting up and fighting white supremacy, they'll fight your battle for you. No, it ain't. That ain't going to happen. This is an all hands on deck proposition. That is the level of crisis that we're facing right now. Either you're going to get off your butt and you're going to fight, or white supremacy will kill you where you stand. And you should want to be part of the fight against white supremacy. You should be proud to be able to support and fund and speak for and help to spread the word for the brothers and sisters who are getting out there and doing the work. You should be proud of the fact that you can be part of an effort like this. You should be proud to take part in it. You should feel privileged to do so, because white supremacy, whenever white supremacy feels that pain, whenever white supremacy feels that hurt, whenever we crush one of white supremacy's puppets and then we show white supremacy, if we can crush your puppets, if we can cut your puppet strings and you can't do anything to save your puppet, well, it doesn't take much imagination to see that sooner or later the puppet master, he can also get smacked down. Yeah, we cut the puppet strings and now we're ready to cut down the puppet master himself. Because once you cut the puppet master's puppet off, you make it where the puppet master himself, you've taken control from him, because ain't nobody supposed to be able to do that. Certainly not the black folks who were supposed to be relegated to nothing more than irrelevant spectators. They weren't supposed to be able to do anything. In fact, they weren't even supposed to be able to say boo to the show. But we've proven that we can do more than merely voice our displeasure. We can crash the party. We can bring the freaking show to a halt, or at the very least, we can disrupt it. But you're the ones who determine whether or not that disruption has teeth. You're the one who determines that, not us. Because you are the ones who are the force multiplier. You're the resource base. You guys stand up and step forward, white supremacy's got to back down. You had clowns like Malik Yoba, and this guy here, this is a walking, talking disgrace. This chump puts himself on a pedestal like he's the second coming of John Amos or something. And he's bragging about how he loves trans women, but he ain't bragging about how he loves black women. He's bragging about how he's standing up. I forget the phrase that he used on the Breakfast Schlubs. What do you call it? Stepping up? Stepping up? What the hell does that mean? That's what you call standing up to the enforcement arm of white supremacy. When you get out there in the streets of Ferguson, in the streets of Baltimore, in the streets of New York and LA and all points in between, when you take it to the enemy, when you make it where white supremacy's foot soldiers understand they are not going to be gunning black people down, they are not going to be shooting people, and all they got to do is go to work the next day. When you make it clear that you're going to break the enforcement arm of white supremacy, that's stepping up. When you got those kids putting their bodies and their lives on the line in Ferguson and Baltimore, that's stepping up. Being caught in the back seat with a trans woman or a trans man, that ain't stepping up. Trying to talk about having sex with some trans person as being courageous, or this is brave, oh, why, this is so heroic. Since when has being in the back seat with somebody been heroic? Since when is that courageous? You're trying to elevate your naughty little fun to the level of being heroic. I'm stepping up. Stepping up? I'm seen in public holding hands with some person who 6 months ago was using the men's room. These are the ridiculous lengths that some people are going to for the sake of trying to take what clearly they themselves must feel somewhat ashamed of, because otherwise, why would you be so ridiculous, just going over the top, just so ridiculously exaggerated with the language? You're trying to elevate your bedroom activity to the level of some sort of courageous action, like you won a war or killed a dragon or cured a disease or something. You're trying to elevate it to that. You see, if you don't have a black media, then what will happen is the Breakfast Schlubs, they will give a platform to the Malik Yobas and the Kamala Harrises and the rest of the fakers, frauds, and phonies, and they will try to say this is what black people think. And they will not once say, you know what, Malik, you're totally out of line, and you are out of step with what black folks think. Like it or not, you're out of step with it. And Kamala Harris, you're out of step with black folks, and you're out of line. You didn't have any of them do that. Malik Yoba wasn't about to say, you know what, I played a cop, a New York cop, back in the 90s, for the hot minute when I had a career. And you know what? You got these black kids who are standing up to police brutality. That ain't standing up to police brutality. That's stepping up. That's stepping up. You see, he doesn't talk about taking on police brutality in those terms. He's not on a crusade against that. He's not describing truly heroic, truly courageous action as stepping up. Yeah, when it comes time to talk about the enforcement arm of white supremacy, when it comes time to take on police brutality, well, Malik Yoba is MIA. Forget about coming out of the closet as gay. Forget about coming out of the closet as trans. When are you going to have some of these black celebrities coming out of the closet against police brutality, against white supremacy? When are they going to come out of the closet against that? See, society will pin a medal on you, and they'll put you on the cover of magazines, and they will hold you up as some sort. They'll call you an icon. Ain't that what they say about Bruce Jenner? Calling him an icon. If you say that I'm a trans person or I'm gay, they're going to hold you up on a pedestal. But who puts you on the cover for standing against police brutality? Jesse Williams, they didn't hold him up as any sort of icon. He wasn't on the cover of anything. Nah, they're not giving him any awards. They're not trying to make it where society needs to validate and needs to value black people who stand against police brutality. They're not giving you any awards for that. Nah, they're not doing any awards ceremonies for that. Nah, the Emmys ain't giving you no awards for that. And before anyone brings it up, yeah, I know that Agent Duvernay, with her little subterfuge effort when they see us, yeah, they've got some Emmy nominations for that, but you better believe it ain't gonna be the black folks who win anything. They're gonna there's a couple of white women who apparently got some nominations in that, and if anyone wins anything, and that's gonna be a Hail Mary on that one. But if anyone wins anything, they're gonna make sure it's the white women who do. It's gonna be the white folks who do, just like with Straight Outta Compton. You had a number of black folks there, but it was the white folks who took home all the awards. So that's what I think about that. So while you may be disgusted by what's going on with the white media's doing with this latest attempt to put a thumb in our eye, don't ever be surprised. This is white supremacy thrashing about. This is what it looks like when white supremacy is thrashing about, because if they weren't doing this, what that would mean is they feel that their position is so unassailable, they got things so in hand, why would they need to even go in on Michael Jackson? There wouldn't be a need to. There wouldn't have to, mainly because of the fact that there wouldn't be any white guys who got their butts in a crack to the point where they have to resort to something like this. So this is a move of desperation. They're exposing exactly how weak their position is. But more importantly than that, for those of us who are aware, they're also exposing who it is who has weakened their position. You see, they understand exactly how dangerous a black media is if it's not stopped early. They start off by going after white supremacy's black puppets because the black puppets don't really have that much in the way of resources. White supremacy isn't giving the black puppets enough to actually protect themselves. And if white supremacy doesn't come in on a white horse to save its bootlicks, well, that's going to be the end of them. And that's just as well in the view of white supremacy. White supremacy has no long-term plans for any of its puppets, and that includes Malik Yoba. But family, I need you to understand that this drive that the white media has been on to say that black people have no legitimate grievance, which is what they're really coming from. This is what this is really about. They would like to point to immigrants. They'll point to the LGBTQ plus whatever community. They'll point to anybody and everybody, women, whole nine yards, anything to say that black people of any stripe, pattern, or spot are not oppressed. And why are we spending so much time on these Negroes? There's important things to look at, like, these illegal aliens. That's important. This drive to do this and to have black people out there who will lead the charge to say, oh, there's more important people to be focusing on than black people. It's not new at all. It was no less than white supremacist double agent Bayard Rustin, who did not like black people and was always looking for some way, some opening that he could use in order to try to push some other agenda other than a black agenda. Bayard Rustin, shortly before his passing, he gave a number of speeches where he finally came out politically to show what it was that he really wanted and where he really stood. And it was not on the side of black people. It was always on the side of what he did in the bedroom. That was always his objective. He sought to use the civil rights movement, the black struggle, as nothing more than a springboard, a platform that was supposed to catapult him to prominence so that he could fight for what it was he really wanted, which was the ability to be able to have amorous relations with as many men as possible, preferably white. And society wouldn't punish him for exercising his white daddy love. That's what Bayard Rustin was really all about. Now, I looked hard and I had to look high and low and all around to try to find this quote because I didn't want to get it out of context or get it wrong. It was very important to me that this quote be right. But I remember how Bayard Rustin was the main one, and the white media couldn't get enough of it, of pushing his lie that black people were no longer the important ones in the society when it comes to judging whether or not the society is on the right track or wrong track. He said, and I quote, "Today, blacks are no longer the litmus paper or the barometer of social change." Can you imagine that? Saying that he's pointing to the group that he's part of to see the wretched condition that black people were in. And this is during the Reagan years, mind you. To see the wretched this after the bombing of Move. This after all sorts of brutality that black people have been suffering in the 1980s, and this at the local level, to say nothing of what Reagan was going to unleash at the federal level. Bayard Rustin saw that in 1986. He was saying that blacks are no longer the litmus paper or the barometer of social change. Well, who the hell was it? Who else was catching hell like us? Nobody. But then he went on to say, blacks are in every segment of society, and there are laws that help to protect them from racial discrimination. Now you notice how Bayard Rustin says, protect them. Them. He's talking about black people and he says, protect them. He draws a distinction between himself and black people. And this is supposed to be an allegedly black man. But once he thinks he's in a position where he can say what he really wants to say, he makes it very clear, I ain't with them Negroes. Oh, they've got laws to protect them. As far as he's concerned, he transcended blackness. What he did in the bedroom and who he was doing it with, in his mind, that transcended his race. He had somehow escaped being black. He wasn't like the rest of them Negroes. This is supposed to be a civil rights icon who the white media never gets tired of holding up on a pedestal. But before his death, he wanted to have his say and say what he really always thought, and he wanted to make it clear, nah, don't be calling me black. I ain't like them. And this is a hell of a lot more than just the typical distancing himself from blackness. This is Bayard Rustin attempting to other black people. That's what this is really about. Bayard Rustin was being the dependable mouthpiece for white supremacy, getting in front of the cameras and saying, I'm going to officially other black people and give permission to white supremacy to do the same. You want to know why it is that there's so much anti-black hostility that you find from so many in the LGBT community, like Milo Snuffleupagus, Ed Buck, and others? You want to know why? It's because people like Bayard Rustin kept giving them entree and kept encouraging them. He talks about black people as some sort of alien species, as if he's not one, as if he doesn't really know what black people are, but they're just that group over there. And then you get clowns like Very Stupid Brothers, whoever those clowns call themselves, saying that black men are the white people of black people. Yeah, you can tell when the people who clearly consider what they do in the bedroom to be more important than their color, when the society considers their color to be the only thing that matters. You can see how these clowns, they know exactly the right buttons to push in order to get a pat on the head from white society. The new niggers are gays. Ain't it interesting how there's new niggers all the time? Everybody's quick to declare themselves as being the new underclass, and yet black people are the ones steadily at the bottom and sinking. And yet you had a so-called, to hear the white media tell it, civil rights icon, as the white media called him that anyway. And he's saying that black people are no longer the yardstick by which to measure social change. It's gay people, you see. The question of social change, Rustin said, should be framed with the most vulnerable group in mind, gay people. Now, never mind that you already had Harvey Milk, and you already had a number of gay politicians, and a number of gay actors, and you had a number of gay corporate heads, a number of gay people in every strata of society. You had gay people in positions that black people could not have and to this day still do not have, and yet you had Bayard Rustin in 1986 saying that black people are not the most vulnerable group. Well, you didn't have the Philadelphia Police Department firebombing the local gay hangout. You didn't have anybody poisoning the water supply where predominantly gay enclaves are. You didn't have anybody, Ronald Reagan would not dare meet with anybody who's supposed to be a representative of the gay community and say, well, I had a so-so meeting with them. He wouldn't dare, but he did that regarding Desmond Tutu and the brutality that black people were suffering under the Dutch occupation regime in South Africa. But Bayard Rustin overlooked all that. That wasn't his priority. His priority was always himself. His priority was always what he wanted to do in the bedroom, and black people could either be useful idiots, useful tools to help him further that desire on his part, or black people were obstacles to it, and he could use black people and say, well, these black people, they need to stop being so selfish. They don't have any problems anymore. He sounded like every white conservative, every white racist you ever heard, and every white leftist who was looking for a means to push their own agenda and to get black people off the front pages. We need to stop focusing on black folks so much. What do we need to focus on? Well, anything other than black people. And Bayard Rustin was leading the charge. How dare he? How dare he? And now you got Malik Yoba following in Bayard Rustin's decrepit footsteps. Malik Yoba's not concerned about the fact that he could be the next victim of white supremacy. As far as he's concerned, as long as he gets to do what he wants to do between the sheets or in the restroom or in the bathroom stall at the airport or in the back seat of whatever automobile, as long as he's able to do that, he's good. Well, you see, we got to focus on what really matters. And the white media will give him a platform to do that, so we can go ahead and stop focusing on black people, because after all, it's not like black people are having a hard time. I mean, didn't you know that gay people are being gunned down by the police left, right, and center? And didn't you know that you got politicians passing laws, the Straight Lives Matter laws? Didn't you know that? Didn't you know that it was no less than the Boston City Council that endorsed the local straight pride parade? Oh, wait. Well, didn't you know that it was no less than the North Carolina legislature that passed the Straight Lives Matters law? Oh, wait. Well, Barack Obama, he was the one who wrote the executive order, the Straight Lives Matters law, the Black Lives Matters executive order. Oh, wait. You see, across the board, it's gay people who are getting all sorts of legislative protection and stuff that is basically making the LGBT community, in the eyes of the law, practically super citizens. Where it's a matter of, you're not even, if a gay person decides that they want to attack you under law, they could do so with no legal repercussions because you trying to defend yourself, all they have to say is, he attacked me, and you're the one who goes to jail, and they don't even ask any questions. You see, there's nobody leading the charge to make sure that black people can have protection merely from having people call the police on you with the expectation that the police are going to show up to carry out a summary execution, and there will be a majority, if not completely white jury that will say, oh, we're going to acquit him. He didn't do anything wrong. And you'll have DAs doing everything that they can to protect that murder and to make sure that they protect the murderers. See, nobody's leading the charge to try to attack gay people and to make some sort of popular social movement out of that. Nobody's running around with politicians saying straight lives matter or judges saying straight lives matter. You will, however, have Democrats saying, well, all lives matter. You go to Boston or you go to San Francisco and you call yourself even trying to get them to give you a permit for a straight pride parade, even though that itself, admittedly, the people who are behind that, a clumsy front by white supremacists, sure. But I'm talking about simply in the abstract. You try that and they're not going to be looking and going, well, you know, we don't want to seem closed-minded. They'll be like, oh, do you know what an insult that is to the gay community? You know what an insult that is? Meanwhile, you'll have the bastards, the politicians will be out there saying blue lives matters. We need laws. We stand with the blue, back the badge. And nobody says, do you know how damned insulting that is to the black community? Well, you know, these niggers, they don't follow the laws, you know. Well, who writes the laws? Good white folks like us write the laws, you know. So that's the environment that we're in. And it was every bit as bad in the 1980s, and Bayard Rustin was out there cheerleading that black people are in every segment of society. What, you have one or two token Negroes somewhere, and as far as he's concerned, he's saying that the society is fully integrated. Black people are in every segment of society. We were not then and are not now represented in as many stratas of segments of societies as gays are. Gays already had a foothold in every arena of academics, finance, business, politics, and education, and black people then had very few positions, a few tokens, and now we have less than we had in the 1980s. The gays have more. Bayard Rustin would be proud. But that's the environment that we got, I suppose. That's the media environment that we currently have. And it's not an accident that Malik Yoba was out there flying the flag for everybody except for black people. And it's no accident that he was out there cheerleading for the promotion and the social acceptance of anyone other than black people. That's no accident. This is a long-standing project that the white media has been pushing. And if you're a black person who gets out there and says that somebody else should have prominence and that somebody else somehow is more victimized in the society than black people, if you're willing to tell that lie, why, the white media will gladly give you a platform and they'll bring you on the breakfast schlubs and not one of them will say boo. Not one of them will say, well, you know, in the condition that black people are in, we are in no position to be trying to promote or push for anybody else's rights other than our own because we don't have the ability to protect ourselves. So let's go ahead and get some power for ourselves first. Let's empower ourselves, and then, why we could be even more useful to your LGBT pals and your immigrant pals and all the rest of these people, these alternative lifestyle practitioners that you're trying to promote, why we could be much more helpful to them if we had some power for ourselves. No, it's not a matter of that. It's a matter of black people need to promote and push everyone else with our dying breath. That's what this is about. Black people need to stand up for everyone else with our dying breath. No, you don't need to get any power for yourself. You don't need to build your strength. You do not need to aggregate your resources or to be in an empowered position. You need to do it on your knees, flat on your back with your dying breath. You should take whatever little feeble strength you have left. Don't use it to advocate for yourself. Don't use it to fight for yourself. You should use your dying breath to fight for everyone else except you. That's what's going on here. That's the sick demand the white supremacy is making through its black flunkies like Bayard Rustin and Malik Yoba. And the breakfast schlubs are helping to push that, and nobody's pushing back except for the new voices of black media. Nobody is saying, what about black people except for us? So you go ahead and you breathe in the wretched, putrid stench of what the white media is doing. Their latest attack on the black community by proxy. Using Malik Yoba and the Emmys and the attacks on Michael Jackson. Go ahead and breathe it in. Breathe in the foul stench of white supremacy's latest attack. And when you're done doing that, and when you're done being predictably outraged about it, you better make sure that you start asking, what the hell can I do to empower the new voices of black media? Because if we don't stand up for you, nobody, and I mean absolutely freaking nobody else will.